and I call it watercolor, but it's really watered down acrylic. So, I've been a member of the Sunnyvale Art Club since 2006, and it's a wonderful club because when you do art and stuff, it's oftentimes you're alone. So it's nice to be among other artists because before my wife's an engineer, so I used to go to a lot of parties with engineers, and a lot of their conversations were way over my head. So being around other artists, they talk about stuff they actually know and stuff. So I recommend the club because there's a lot of neat stuff you can do together as artists. So last year we did murals for fairgrounds, I think.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun, and I got to meet members of the club that I didn't know before, because I used to go regularly to the meetings, but a couple of years ago my parents started having health problems, so I only go sporadically now and stuff. So, but when I do go, I'm always meeting, half of you I probably don't know and stuff, but it's nice. But when you do things like the mural project, it's a lot of fun. You get to actually meet the club members. So like the library show, Penny, I just joined this Open Studios thing, and you learn a lot and stuff. For the Open Studios, I learned if somebody's interested in your art, walk to the person, don't run. So, I think make sure the person actually wants to buy your painting before you take their money. So, if you start playing tug of war with their purse, that's wrong. So right now I want to show you pen and ink and watercolor and stuff. So my big influences, whenever I do my artwork, I always open the page of an art book, so this particular artist, or these, I've been hugely influenced by comic strips. So I love the look of the comic strips, and I love the pen and ink and cross-hatching style. So if you look at my stuff, a lot of it is pen and ink and cross-hatching. So like, there's a comic strip called Crazy Cat, and it's this book over here. Crazy Cat is a early 20th century comic strip, and if you look at it, there's a lot of cross-hatching, right? And I love it. It's the cross-hatching and the detail work. But if you do detail work, my suggestion is to go big, because I tend to go small. And if you notice, I have glasses, and my glasses are pretty thick. Because if you do the detail work for a long time, you start getting nearsighted and stuff. So there's an artist here who does a lot of wonderful detail work, but I told her, go big so you save your eyes and stuff. So another artist that I love is Maurice Sendak. He's a children's book illustrator, and the same thing with him is he does the cross-hatching and the watercolor and stuff. So. And another artist, he's an underground cartoonist, Robert Crumb. And Crumb, I got one of his books that has a more G-rated stuff, because some of his stuff tends to be a little bit X-rated, but he's from that same tradition of cross-hatching and then coloring over it and stuff. So. But his stuff is wonderful. He's a big fan of jazz and the blues, and so he did a whole series on jazz and blues musicians. And so, but I love that cross-hatching style. But I'm guessing that he draws big and stuff because, But if you notice, all the artists who do this style, they wear glasses, and I think it's because of the detail work. So, when I went to college, one of the ways you can learn how to about the style of artists, if you see a biography of an artist, there's always a section in the, there's not always, but there's usually a section in the book that tells you how the artist does their work. So this particular artist, Arthur Rackham, he's a children's book illustrator, and there's a section in here that shows how he does his work. So if you look at his stuff, he's another big influence of mine. And he does pen and ink and watercolor as well. But there's a section in here, which I should have marked. Oh yeah, here. In this paragraph, it tells you how he does it. and stuff. So if there's an artist that you like and you see a book on him, kind of read through, because there'll always be a section where it tells you how he does his stuff.
How do you spell his last name?
Rackham. He did Peter Pan in Kensington Park, Alice in Wonderland. This is a page from Alice in Wonderland. And my favorite of his is The Wind in the Willows and stuff. So he does this wonderful stuff. But you know, if you don't read on how they do it, it's kind of a mystery, right? So also, when I was in college, they had this magazines that tell you how artists do their work. So for this, you know, or actually this is a better one, Step by Step magazine. I don't know if it still exists, but for this particular artist, he was one of my favorite artists. It shows you how he does the work, step by step. So he does the drawing, then he does the overlay, and then he does the inking, and then and it shows you the material that he uses, right? So, and when I was in college, me and all of my classmates, we got these magazines if our particular favorite artist was featured, and and then for the next couple of weeks, all of our projects looked like this particular artist, right? So, and I wanted to introduce Greg. He was one of my classmates. He's a wonderful cartoonist, and he does cartoons for comic book conventions that he sells. So he's sort of a cult figure among cartoon, but he's a good cartoonist too. And I think you're working on a retrospective.
Right.
Yeah. So he's doing a retrospective of all his cartoons. He's been doing it for what, 30 years?
Wow.
So yeah. So okay. So these are my influence. So when I do my artwork, often I have a page open, so I'm looking at an artist that I like. And if you look at some of the pages, there's a little faded buckling. Those are from my tears. Because I wish I was as good as this artist. So that's why there was a time when the library wouldn't allow me to check out library art books. I was always crying on the particular pages. So, okay, let me show you what I do now. So, let me pass this out. This tells you some of the materials that I use. And these are some of the organizations that I'm in. So, I'm in the Sunnyvale Art Club. There's a group called the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. Because I have an ambition of doing a children's book. And I'm also in the Association of American Editorial Cartoons, because I do political cartoons for a Filipino-American newspaper. So I can pass it out. So okay. I tell people that I don't do as much attending because of my parents, but they're not the only reason. For the past year and a half, I've been working on a children's book. So I can show you what I've been doing. So most of these illustrations are from that project. So I was thinking of self-publishing it at first, but then Penny is also working on a children's book. She said, you should actually probably get a publisher. So I thought, he seems very wise. So I thought I'd do that. So what I did was first I showed her this is my first draft. So if you want to take a look, and these are a lot of the illustrations here. There's a thing in Amazon called Kindle Publishing, where you can publish your own stuff, but the problem with that is that nobody knows you, right? And if you're going to publish stuff, publishers have an advantage because they have distributors, so they can distribute to bookstores, they can distribute to libraries and stuff. So, but I wanted to do it because for years I've been submitting to publishers, and it's always frustrating. But I thought, but then I thought, I don't have the money to distribute and stuff, so I might as well. So I think 2 or 3 months ago, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators had an Illustrators Day in San Francisco. And so I joined a critique group. And so now I'm writing and rewriting my stories over again. So this is the first draft, and as you go through the critique group and you get critiques, it gets better and better. or so I hope, you know. So because that's sort of the process I had in college. You put your art in the board, the entire class gives a critique, and after they give the critique, you have to redo it and stuff. And so, so this is the first draft, you know. I'll pass it along. So, but then I've been spending my time writing and rewriting and stuff. So this is the second draft, you know. And if you look at this one, when they give a critique, I usually forget what they say, so I have to write notes to remember what they critiqued. And I choose what to accept as a critique and what, yeah, maybe I don't want to do that. So if you compare that book to this one, I made quite a few changes. So like, you know, one of the criticisms was the police and stuff. So I got rid of the police for my third draft. I expanded it. One of the other thing is that, see how I did this where the pages were, instead of just having it, you know, where it's a box, expand it through the whole page and experiment with the composition. So I started doing that as well. So this is my second, but if you look at the third, I've been doing that. The only thing is that if you keep going through critique after critique, you'll never get done. So at some point, I'm going to have to say, I'm done. So
Is this in San Francisco?
No. Well, the Illustrators Day was in San Francisco, but the critique group is here, because I don't want to drive all the way to San Francisco all the time.
My son does children's books.
Oh, yeah. So it's SCBWI. It's a great group. And every year they, in my...
Later, I'll let you finish.
Sure. So this is this. So, and then this is my third draft. And so what I do is I sketch and scratch paper, right? So I keep sketching. And this is Penny and her group. They gave me a critique too and stuff. And so, but it was very helpful because the critique of that group was very similar to the critique that my critique group gave me. So I said, you know, maybe I got to listen to them and stuff. So it was very helpful. I'm very grateful for Penny and her group for giving. It was good advice. So this is my. So I sketch in here, and then I just you know, yeah, here. So you know, I made sketches and I tried to make changes and stuff. And so like instead of like I do a full page spread instead of a half page. And one of the things about Maurice Sendak is that when he does his books, if you look at where the wild things are, his first page, the illustration is small. But as he goes along into the story, the illustrations get bigger and bigger until they fill the entire page. And then as he goes back from the dream world, the illustrations get smaller and smaller again. So by the end of the story, it's small again. So you know, each illustrator is different, but in a book you can do stuff like that where the size of it's not just the illustration, but the size of the illustration helps with the story. So Maurice Sendak and stuff. So and if you go to the library and some of the pages are a little bit yellow and stuff, it's from me. It's the tears and stuff. So, okay. So the first thing I do is I made a sketch. Oh, also, I like, you know, I was talking to you about it. I like cold press illustration. You know, usually, you know, if it's a single sheet, I like 300-pound cold press illustration because if you get lighter weight, you have to tape it and stuff and stretch it. And I'm terrible at doing that because every time I try it buckles anyway. So with 300 pound, you don't have to worry about the buckle. But if you don't have that, the problem we have right now is all the stores that I used to get my art supplies from have all closed down. So University Art, Flax, Aaron Brothers, the Sunnyvale Art Gallery, they're all closed down. And so I'm forced to go online, but I'd rather actually just go to a store and stuff. So I feel kind of sad, and I'm not really a fan of Michael's and stuff, but you know, I'm kind of forced to go there because it's the closest thing.
They don't have that.
Yeah, they don't have it and
They
stuff.
don't have that.
They have arches. I just bought some the other day.
Oh.
Not a good supply.
Yeah, but I also like
not a good
this.
spot, but they do have it.
The arches, this is a block.
Yeah.
So that the reason I like this paper, because one of the things that bugs me is when you wet the watercolor and it buckles. That drives me crazy. So with either 300 pound or with these blocks, you don't have to worry about the buckle, right? So, so for this one, I did two things. This is one where I'm going to transfer the drawing onto the paper. And then this one, this is where I already inked it and I'm going to do the color. Because when you ink it, you have to wait a day. I found that if you try to color on the same day you ink, the ink bleeds. So you have to wait for the ink, wait a day or two for the ink to dry. I use Speedball, Super Black, India ink. Okay. I use these various nibs. I put the name down, but I'm only guessing at what the name was because I used to go to the store and buy it without having to know the name. So you see these things here? You just, stick this in here, and it comes in various thicknesses and thinnesses. You can use this for calligraphy or, inking and stuff. The only thing is, for this one, be careful. Make sure it's tight in here because if it's loose, it'll drop in the ink thing, and you got to scoop the stupid thing out. So I've had to do that a couple of times. So I'm kind of hoping that I buy one where it's tighter, so this doesn't have to drop and stuff. So I always twist it to make sure it's tight and stuff. So, okay. To transfer the drawing, I use I use this graphite. Black graphite paper. Okay, I got this one at University Art, but since University Art closed, I was trying to find another place. So Michael's does have this, but you got to search because when I asked at least 3 people, they didn't know what this was and stuff. But the 4th guy knew, and so I was lucky and stuff. So you just use this to trace. So I'll do this right now. I'll trace this drawing onto the page. So I just take it out. Okay. So let's see, black and stuff, and just put it here. And I tape it with this blue tape. I don't know what, I like the blue, but I don't think there's anything special about it. It's just blue tape. So if you want a different color, it's okay.
So what is your inspiration for the ideas of what you're drawing?
Oh,
I think that would be the hardest part.
I don't know. I get my ideas from different things. So, like for this, I used to have a cat named Jasper. And he was the first cat. I never had a pet before because I have asthma and I have allergies. But if I was going to be with my wife, she had a cat, and she didn't want to get rid of the cat, so I had to get used to the cat. But I turned out I really loved the cat because I never had a pet before, and I didn't until I had a pet, I didn't realize that you can get emotionally attached to an animal. Right, so he died around 2012. So it was very sad when I didn't realize I'd feel so sad about the loss of a cat, but I did.
Yeah.
So and he was kind of a fat cat and stuff, and he's kind of lazy and stuff. But in spite of all that, he was a lovable cat and stuff. So
And he could cook.
Yeah, he could cook. Yeah. Yeah. So here. So I'm just gonna get a pen. Maybe if I can find one. So all I'm going to do is trace this drawing, and then after I trace it, I'll show you what I think of when I ink. So I'm just going to draw.
Those brushes that.
Yeah, so for me, I use different things. So for the thin lines, I use this stuff. For the thick line, I use this. And when I do it, I'm thinking thick, thin lines and stuff. So, so I'm thinking, some lines can be thick, some lines can be thin. And one of the things I learned, I went to an illustrator's day and I did a critique, and I used to make sure all the lines were attached. One of the good things about going to an illustrator's day is you get critiques. You show your portfolio, and an art director looks at it, and says, oh, I like this, I don't like this. One of the things my art director told me when she looked at my portfolio is to make sure my drawings breathe, so that I don't have to attach the lines all the time. I can see, I can leave space so that it breathes. I didn't understand what, at first, but ever since I tried it, I said, oh yeah, it's breathing. So like this, I don't attach all the lines. I unattach the lines.
Yeah.
So breathe. So that's that. But the outline is thick, but then I do the sketching thin and stuff. So when I'm doing it and stuff, and this is a fairly cheap brush. The thing about ink is acidic, and it has a tendency. From what I've been told, I've had this brush for a while, but use a cheaper brush for the inking and stuff, right? But make sure it's able to do that thick, thin thing and stuff, and that just takes practice. The more you do it, the better you get.
What is the number of that brush?
I don't know. Is it 2?
One or
It's a 2. Okay, I guess it's a 2. Some brushes.
pretty small.
Yeah. So if you take Winsor Newton brushes, the Winsor Newton brushes, I think they have numbers. Yeah, number 2 and stuff. These are the good brushes. I use the good brushes for paints. I use the cheap brush for inking and stuff. So. Yeah, so this is one of the few good things about Michaels is they have a lot of good cheap brushes and stuff. So if you want a cheap brush, go to Michaels. So.
And does the carbon spread when you put like ink or water on the carbon, the tracing marks?
Oh no. This is the actual watercolor paper. It doesn't spread unless it's the paper's wet.
Oh,
And stuff.
okay.
This is cold press and stuff. The hot press is supposed to be good for detail work if you do watercolor, but I don't know.
It's hard to.
I don't know many people who do hot press, but I actually like hot press. But one, it's hard to find and stuff, and two, it used to be hard to find. I guess it's easy to find now because it's on the internet. But I like hot. I mean, you're a watercolorist. What do you?
I don't care for it. I
You
tried
know.
it once and just,
It's hard to paint on.
it's hard to paint on.
Yeah. So I think the watercolors here could give you better advice on hot press and night. But I like it. But it's detail work. It's not. It's very different. Cold press is my preferred one, but hot press is not bad. I just don't like rough.
What's the difference between hot press and cold press?
Cold press is round, hot press is smooth.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of flat and smooth. Hot press is smooth, whereas cold press.
Cold
Yeah.
press is bumpy, hot press is smooth.
Yeah.
Smooth and rough.
Yeah. So, do you like hot press? Or?
Yeah, just.
No, you don't.
I like the cold press.
You like cold? Yeah. I think I'm the only one who likes hot press, but I haven't painted in hot press in years, so maybe my memory's bad. But hot press is good. So this is my thing is making sure you have thick and thin lines. Make sure the lines are not all attached and stuff. And then after you finish, don't paint immediately. Wait a day, because if you try to paint on the same day that you ink, it's gonna bleed and stuff. So I'm just painting here.
These are the permanent ink?
Yeah, it's permanent ink and stuff. So if you mess up, you're just gonna have to get another page, or maybe fudge it and stuff. Yeah, if you can do that and stuff. But usually, I have newspapers and stuff. But in case it's because I have spilled ink a lot and stuff over my time and stuff. But if you go to YouTube, you can watch these great cartoonists inking and stuff, and and they're great and stuff. So I learned a lot from them too. There's these YouTube videos, cartoonists inking, and that doesn't sound very exciting watching somebody ink, but if you like that kind of stuff, just make sure like if your spouse is around, they're not thinking, what is she doing? What is
If
she?
you get a roll of masking tape and put it around the ink, then you don't have to worry so much about it spilling.
Oh yeah, right. I didn't think of that. Yeah. Okay. Do you do that? Or?
I do that, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just my wife just thinks I'm a mess in terms of like, so she's, you know, she still has hope for a rug, but I mean, you know, so I think one of the, if you want to put expression on you're doing a kind of cartoony thing, the eyes and the eyebrows are important, you know. So you know if you want it to be stern, you know, you can have like the eyebrows furrowed and stuff. You know, I most of my characters have bags under their eyes and stuff, but you know, because they're always in a state of stress and stuff. But yeah, so okay, I don't think I'll finish this one, but I'll do what I can because I want to get to the painting part.
See, Angelo, if you want to draw the cops, you should do a children's book about the Keystone Cops
Yeah.
in the 20s.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
That's what it reminds me.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, Channel 44 in the Bay Area used to have Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, and Bob Hope and Cross. I used to love that stuff when I was a kid.
And Our Gang.
Yeah, Our Gang, yeah, Shirley Temple, and all of that stuff. Yeah, I was a big fan of the Thin Man series. Yeah, I was a big fan of that and stuff. So. I think nowadays you can do a lot of this stuff in the computer, but so then, you know, I won't finish this, but I'll show you. Yeah, I can also do. I like textures, so if you look at my stuff, I spend hours. You know, so like the elephant, I spend hours. Well, not hours, but I just. You know, it's kind of, I don't know. I think I have latent OCD because I just like doing that and stuff. So, you know, if you see me and I'm just doing this and stuff, you know why. And stuff. So, yeah, this is why I have glasses. So, you know, because see this part here. If you look at these comic strips, they almost all the cartoonists in the background, they had this kind of with the ink and stuff. I don't the cross hatching and stuff. I love that. So, but you know, so
It's tedious.
yeah. So you know, so for me, I like to put fur. You know, and just you know. So a lot of my thing is dipping ink and stuff, and then you know, to add volume, you know, I'll do cross hatching. You know, and then. So I'll do the fur. So like in this guy, I put the fur and then I put shading to add volume and stuff. So let me. I'll say I'm finished with this for now. So you know, basically, thick and thin outline, cross hatching, and putting texture. Okay. So close this so I don't accidentally spill it.
So do you do shading after the coloring or before?
Both. See what? Because when you paint, when you do acrylic, you know, it's not really watercolor, but what I do is acrylic. So when you do the initial wash and you put the coloring over the ink, it doesn't have the dark black anymore. So I re-ink it and stuff. So okay. So now I'm gonna paint. Put this stuff away. So when I paint, one of the first things a lot of these artists do, like Arthur Rackham and Maurice Sendak, is so this is I did this 2 days ago. The cross hatching, the textures and stuff. So what I do now, I take yellow, titanium white, and raw sienna. I mix it together, and then I do a wash over the ink drawing. And it's supposed to, you know, so if you compare this to this, the white here, it's not really white. It's the wash of yellow, titanium white, and raw sienna. And the reason I do it is because they do it. And you know, I like their look. And that's the only reason I do it, is because I just like that look. So, and Yeah, so a lot of the stuff I do, I'm not actually sure why I do it. I just do it because my favorite artists do it and stuff. And I think, you know, if they know, if they do it, why can't I and stuff. So, and a lot of my material, this is a yogurt, you know, so like, I think yogurt and stuff. So my wife, you know, this is from a sandwich thing, you know, like, you know, for the turkey.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, you can, you know, ask your spouses to keep this, so you can use this for like, you know, so, do this, and then I mix yellow. And I notice it's not just, a lot of artists do that and stuff, where they do a wash first. So like, let's say you want to do a night scene, instead of this color, you would put blue, a light bluish. Or if you want to do a hot day, you do kind of a orange reddish kind of light thing and stuff. So, yeah, I do not question, you know, they are better artists than I, so I don't think, so I do that, and I really water it down and stuff. If I want to make it even lighter, I'll put, you know, just pour water here. And then, so I have shading here, but I'll do more shading later, but first I'll do the wash. Okay. This is basically what I do use with a palette knife. I think you can paint with a palette knife, but you know, one of these days I will do that. But I like that look, but for my particular style, this is the only thing I ever do with the palette knife and stuff. So one of these days I'll actually use it for what it's supposed to be used for.
I use it to cut the paper off the gloves.
Yeah. What is this, $5, the palette knife?
I use a plastic one to cut the paper.
Yeah, so if I want to make it lighter, I got white and stuff. So it's not what, you know, it's I call it a watercolor, but it's really watered down acrylic stuff. So because I'm just.
And why do you use acrylic instead of watercolor? It's just, it makes things.
No, it's just, you know, when I was in college, I bought a ton of acrylic, and you know, why buy both watercolor and acrylic if you can just buy one and stuff? So, and I do canvas, and with canvas I do, you know, more opaque acrylic. But yeah, my thought is that, you know, art supplies are expensive enough as it is and stuff, and if you can really water down the acrylic, might as well do that and stuff. I have no other reason why and stuff, but I'm a cheap guy. So, okay. So really water it down. Actually, this is probably too much, but okay. And you know, I have a lot of these. You know, if you look at my box and stuff, you know, I wipe the thing. If you look at my clothes, you know, a lot of my clothes, even my good stuff, I have a ton of paint and stuff because my wife is always telling me, you got to change. I'm buying you the stuff for your birthday, but all of it's full of paint and stuff. But
did everybody get to see these? Did somebody miss anybody? There's some people down there that didn't see them.
So all I'm going to do is just see. So after I do this, I'm going to do some shading. So it's basically the same thing as watercolor, only I have a dark outline. So it's almost like paint by number and stuff. So I'm painting through between the lines, but it's basically the same sort of method as watercolor. So like when people do watercolor demos for this club, I pay a special attention just because I want to learn, you know, maybe I can incorporate something that I didn't know before. So as a plug for our club, you know, the demos, you learn, you know, I learned a lot from various demos and stuff, and then I gotta try that when I get home and stuff. So for, you know, future demos and stuff, you can do that, I guess. So, you know.
So this is more like a gouache then, because it.
No, gouache is more thick, right?
Well,
Because
you can water it down too, though.
Yeah, I've never tried, I mean, I tried gouache when I was in college, but I've never watered it down like watercolors. I don't know the particular qualities of gouache very well, but it's a cool thing. Most of what I see gouache is kind of opaque, dry. If you want to do detail, you do gouache. I don't know if anybody has experience with gouache or agrees with me. Is that
It's
true or
hard to
no?
use. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So like, I think gouache and I think tempera. Tempera. There's a thing called egg tempera. Andrew Wyeth, he does egg tempera, and the reason he uses egg tempera is because it's you can really do detail work with egg tempera, but it's a pain in the. You need eggs, so you take the egg yolk, you mix it with the tempera, and then you know. So if you look at Andrew Wyeth stuff, there's a ton of every blade in the field and stuff. His work is wonderful, but it's kind of nuts and stuff. So
Look like photographs.
yeah. I went to the Andrew Wyeth Museum in Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania. When you look at it live, that's why I put in our museums. You can look at stuff in a book, but you can't really learn anything until you actually look live in a museum at somebody's work, and you just kind of your jaw drops and you think, wow. And then but yeah, I always that was one of the things my teacher told me is that go to a museum and stuff. So I did. Okay, I did this. So I want to do some shading. So for shading, I was always taught not to use straight from the tube black. I was always told to mix ultramarine blue and what's this one again? Burnt umber and ultramarine blue, because the Impressionists did that. And so I took my my teacher's word for it, and I've been doing it ever since and stuff. So. But I think it's kind of true. I don't know what it is about black from the tube and stuff, but it's kind of flat and stuff. Whereas there's a richness about the mixture and stuff. So I don't know if I'm just fooling myself by saying that, but that's always been my thought and stuff.
You
So.
ever use Payne's Gray? I use that instead of black usually.
Oh, okay. No, what is that?
Payne's Gray, P-A-Y-N.
Oh, okay. Is that
It's almost black.
okay? Do you like it?
Very close. And it's not as harsh.
Okay.
It's a little softer.
Can you get darks? I mean,
You could if you don't water it down too much.
I'll try. Yeah. So I mixed the burnt umber. I'm probably gonna have to buy it because it's starting to get dry. But I have another one. Yeah. One of the things you'll notice, I'm not the most organized artist. I just kind of dump everything here, but yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so I mix it, and this will be my darks. Yeah. So. So everything for me is layered and stuff. So this is the sort of tight. It makes everything tight, and then I'm just gonna shade. And when I'm shading, what I'm thinking of is contrast. When I ink, I do spot blacks. When I say spot blacks, this is a trick that cartoonists do. So like, there's one of my favorite comic book artists when I was a kid was Jack Kirby. He did the Fantastic Four. And the guy who inked his work put spot blacks. Spot blacks is where you put little spots of black that pop out the paint. So this. I put this little bit of black here to pop out the head, right? So and when I do, and then I put a little spot black here to pop out the bag, I guess. So that's a sort of or this little here to pop out his mouth. And that's a sort of a cartoonist, I don't know if it's a trick, but it's a thing that a lot of if you look at a lot of cartoonists, like Bill Watterson, the guy who does Calvin and Hobbes, look at his stuff. He does a lot of, when he does the inking, he does a lot of spot blacks to pop out the figure and stuff. So I use the same kind of trick in my stuff. So how am I with time? Am I okay?
8:20.
Okay. So I just kind of I do layering and stuff, and so I think light source, and so I know where to shade. So I'm kind of usually if I was in college, my teacher would be mad because he always wanted us to have reference photos when I do illustration, but I'm kind of too lazy to do that now and stuff. But if you want to do, you can. So I'm always carrying this camera and stuff. So you can take reference shots and you can download. You can take as many shots as you want, or you can go to Google. And if you want to do like some car or something, you can Google car and you can use that as a reference. But one of the things my teacher always taught me was, which I don't really follow anymore, but is to get reference shots and stuff, because it helps you know where the shadows are, know where the particular stuff is. So if there's too much, so.
Does anybody else in here ever do cartoons?
I did a book of cartoons with a guy about bluegrass music.
Oh, cool.
No, I didn't understand why they were funny, but
Was it fun though to do?
yeah, it was. I got to learn about all different kinds of mandolins and things I never knew about.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I found is that when you do, when I've listened to other illustrators who've been published, when they talk about their stuff, it's kind of neat. They get things from out of the blue, assignments. So let's say they have to do a nonfiction book on, the first hot air balloon or something. In doing the research, they have to, they learn a lot about, what did they look like, the history and stuff.
Oh, you have to use tons of reference.
Yeah. So, that was one of the things my teacher said and stuff. So, I actually did kind of do, so like, see how the straps are? I had no idea what a parachute looks like, so I went on Google and looked at it and stuff. But in terms of like, this figure falling on a duck, there was no way I could do a reference shot of that. So I just kind of guessed. But I do reference in terms of, not in terms of the shading and stuff, but in terms of like, what the heck does this look like? What does a parachute actually look like and stuff? Or if I was to do a construction worker, what exactly does, I did one of the police. I actually Googled this and stuff to, what did the old-fashioned ones look like?
Keystone cups.
Yeah, or like, for the giraffe, I actually didn't know what the spots look like. So I went and Googled the giraffe to see what the spot, or like the tiger stripes and stuff. So I do kind of do reference just to see, but I also do a lot of freehand and stuff. So I'm kind of wrong when I say don't use reference. I do kind of use reference, but only in a more vague, general sense. So.
Do you have a steady hand so that you never go out the line?
Part of it is, if you mess up, and I mean and stuff. So, and you go quickly before it dries and stuff. But if you're doing wet on wet and stuff, it's good for shading and stuff. So, you just go darker and darker. But I kind of learned this from those Howe books and stuff, like various illustrators, and also just kind of, when you see what another artist does that you like, you kind of not steal, but you incorporate it into your own style. So I think when I was in college, my first, I was saying, if you're a beginning artist, you're gonna make your first few paintings are not going to be very good. But if you keep persisting, eventually, if you find your own style, when I first went in my art classes, I was struggling and stuff, and I would put my stuff on the wall, and I would get I would get decimated and stuff. But that was because I didn't have my own style. I was struggling to find out who I was as an artist. But once I found my style, I gained confidence. But before I got my style, I was very insecure and stuff, and I was just trying anything and stuff, and it was frustrating to put my stuff on the wall and have it get really harshly critiqued and stuff. But it was a good experience too, because once I found my style, I went from being more of a C student to more in the B plus range. I was never A, but I was like I was good but not great and stuff. You see the art, painting with your own style and stuff. So. When I hear, like when you have these contests like first prize, second prize and stuff, it's nice to get a prize and stuff, but it's, I think it's more important that, one, that your wife and parents like it and stuff, but also just, if people say they like your work, that's nice and stuff, so. Because there'll always be artists who are better realists than you. There'll always be artists who are technically better than you. But I think if you create your own style, then it doesn't matter. So
Be true to yourself.
yeah. So like Henry Rousseau, he taught himself how to paint, and people laughed at him and stuff when he started painting. But then he became one of the most influential. He influenced Picasso. He influenced Matisse, and technically he was a terrible artist. But if you look at his paintings, they're great. Even though he didn't know how to really draw, but he was. But if you look at his pictures and stuff, they're beautiful paintings.
What's his name?
Henry Rousseau. Yeah, but so he would. He was not. A technically good artist, but he's one of my favorite artists. So
See the one that said tropical seeds?
yeah, he did the one with the
Very
lion.
primitive
Yeah,
style.
yeah. So yeah, this is the part when you do demonstrations and you do paintings. There's this moment of silence because you're busy, trying to paint and stuff, but you're worried. I hope the audience isn't too bored and stuff, because that's why I chose this instead, because I also do scratch board, but I didn't think you wanted to see me spending 2 hours scratching and stuff. So so this is what I'm doing. So this is the shading part, right? So basically what I'm doing is I'm doing the darks, okay? And if I was smart, I'd wait for it to dry, but not that smart. So what I can do next. So this is like a coloring book. I go between the lines and I do the next. I layer in the next color and then the next color. So I think the next one I'll do the ducks. Since orange is an easy color to mix, I'll do the feet. Okay.
So you're never doing the color straight out of the tube.
No, I always mix. Well, if I can, yeah, sometimes I do. But a lot of times I just mix and stuff. So, what I used to do is I used to make a photocopy of my drawings, and then I do real small. I would shrink it, and then do a couple. And this is what I used to do in college: is I used to get colored pencil and do colored sketches until I got the colors right. But I'm too lazy to do that now. I just kind of guess. But when I was in college, you used to have to do the color roughs. I do this, but then you can go to the copier and you can shrink it and just do like 5 of this thing. And then okay, what if you had a red hat and you color pencil and you do the red hat? And I don't like that. The next one I'll do yellow hat and stuff. And so, but yeah, I'm just too lazy to do that now and stuff. So, if my teacher saw me now, he'd be sad if I.
No, he'd say you progressed enough.
No, that I'm no longer following his advice, that I spent, I don't know how much money.
Part of it, when you were in school, that was what you were doing, but now you have your job and you have, you can't spend that much time doing some of those other things.
Yeah. If I was a paid illustrator, that's what I would be doing and stuff, but that was always my dream. But I think now, because I was thinking fame and fortune, but that didn't happen. But I'm kind of content, as long as I'm doing art. I think that's, because I know some people who just kind of gave up on their art. But they were a lot better artists than I was. So for me, I think just doing the art is good enough and stuff, you know. So, and you know, if I die and maybe I can cut off my ear and stuff, and maybe you know, I can get my somebody to be convinced that my art was actually, you know. But no, I think it's just fun. So you know, I've done a mural and stuff.
Right.
I've done cartoons now.
What happened to that mural you did at the Sunnyvale Art Gallery? Did that just get painted over?
Yeah, it's gone. But there's I did a mural for a library that's still, I think, around. It's in the San Jose, the Berryessa branch of the San Jose Library. If you go to the children's room, you'll see a mural that I did. So, but I think murals are hard to come by and stuff, but they're fun to do, you know. And when we were doing that fair or whatever, or not the fairgrounds mural, I talked to some of the muralists, and they earn a living doing murals and stuff. So I really admire them.
I think our group was the only amateur group there, wasn't it?
Oh no, but I think ours was just as good as theirs and stuff.
Right, yeah.
Our stuff was good. I think the only thing was just we were doing it at all different times of the day and stuff. So like the evening crew got the colder shift, you know. Since I had to do it after work and stuff, I wound up. But it was fun. I got to. So I think the fun thing I like about stuff like that is I got to actually get to know some of you guys and stuff. So you know, so I got to know Kanchan and Kataki better and stuff. They're nice, you know. They were busy working on their mural and stuff, but yeah, they were very nice. So, and they're good artists too.
I still haven't seen that mural downtown Sunnyvale. What building is it on and what?
No, go find. You know where they're making the movie theater across the street from there. You know where the ice skating rink is?
Yeah.
Right near there. So, see what I'm doing? This is almost like a coloring book. I'm just painting between the lines and stuff. You know, and if you notice, as you paint over the ink, it you know. You notice how when you overlay the acrylic paint, it's not as dark now, right? Mm-hmm. So what I do is after it dries, I re-ink it again.
Do you just do the lines, or do you ink all of the cross hatching?
No, just the lines, the outer lines. I think I actually don't mind. I actually kind of like the effect of the it's faded in the thing and stuff. Yeah. So if you want to know what it's like to do, no, that's okay. This, you know, there's a thing called Photoshop. I can scan it. So, okay. So, you know, so it's I wait for this to dry. So, okay, what do I do now? Okay, the tongues. I know it's red. So you were asking about straight from the tube. That's one thing I can. Oh, actually, I can do the beak. Does anybody have any questions or anything? Or? Okay, so this is supposed to be a duck. So the story is that this cat, Jasper, for his birthday, he always gets pancit. Pancit is a Filipino noodle dish, but this year he couldn't get pancit because this woman cooks pancit for him all for his birthday but she couldn't do it this year because she got into a skydiving accident. Because she accidentally, and their skydiving act, she actually landed into a duck. And so there's a where's the book? There's
over there.
Yeah. So in one of the pages of the book, you'll see the duck and the woman the woman in a hospital. So, and this is sort of he's sad because he doesn't have the pancit, the noodle dish. The reason why is because see, skydiving, you know, she lands in the duck, and then they're in the hospital, and the duck the duck was trying to fly south with the winter, right? And so the duck is mad, and the woman is kind of, you know, I guess got a broken leg. So one of the criticisms is that for one of the drawings, my critique group said, why don't you actually show the collision between the duck, you know, its wing getting hurt, and the woman, you know, in the parachute. So this is my, I think, 4th or 5th version of it and stuff. So this one, the woman doesn't actually collided yet into the duck. It's just about to. And this one, there's the actual collision where the you know. So I'm going to bring this to my critique group this coming Saturday, and I'll see whether I should redraw this again or not. The reason I did this is just for the demonstration. So you know. Okay. So. You know, but yeah, for the critique group, a lot of it is just rewriting and
Penny,
stuff.
what is your book about?
I have 2 books. One is about teachers in school for elementary kids, and the other one is about cleaning your room for children.
Yeah.
And how do you decide how many pages you read?
Well, picture books are pretty set. It's like 32 to 48 pages. They're
So
like
it's in
500.
sections of 8. 8, 16, 24, 32. Is that right? 32?
It has to be divisible by 4.
4, or no, I think 8. Because
Well-
I think when the printer does the seams, right? Am I
No.
right?
I'm
As
not
long as
sure.
it's divisible by 4, you're fine.
Was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I had to do the layout for the.
Oh, yeah, you're
for
right.
the
You're right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, you know more than me.
No.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm just the duck's bill. And you know, if I want to make it darker, I can make it, you know, wait for it to dry a little bit, and then, you know, so like, let's say I want to do this, I can just go straight from the tube and do the tongue and stuff, so.
And when you made the small one, did you take photograph of all those things? That small one?
Oh, some of them I did. Like, so, you know, for this one, I had no idea what a hospital bed looked like, so I just Googled hospital bed.
Oh, no, I meant that you drew all big and then you made it small.
I scanned it.
Oh, you scanned.
I scanned it and I shrunk it. And I have Photoshop at home and stuff. There's a thing called, if you take a class, you can go to Stanford and get a student create suite thing where you get Photoshop, Illustrator, but I'm not a student anymore. So, but you can get those at a cheaper price. So, you know, if you can find a class where you can do that and stuff, I think you can still get those discounts and stuff, but you have to be a student. But I paid, but it's now in the cloud and stuff, so it's kind of annoying because I'm doing Photoshop and then, oh, I gotta do this update. And then I have to wait for the update. So I can't do anything until the update is, and sometimes the update is slow. And so, you know, sometimes, you know, okay. So like, you know, I did this. I can go to the clone tool in Photoshop and just clean that up. But, you know, so, yeah. So if you look at like cartoonist originals, there's a lot of like corrections and whiteout and stuff. Yeah, the originals don't look anywhere as clean as the printed page and stuff. But if you look at, I saw Norman Rockwell's stuff. His stuff is wonderful and stuff. If you go to Stockbridge, Massachusetts, there's a Norman Rockwell Museum. I recommend going there. But you know, if you look at his originals and stuff, they're a lot bigger. But a lot of the white spots is just canvas and stuff. He doesn't paint because he doesn't have to, because he's painting for publication and stuff. But yeah, if you look at him, you realize just how good an artist he is. And stuff. So yeah, so I'm a big fan of his. But when I was in college in the '80s, you kind of didn't admit that you were a Norman Rockwell fan at that time. You can admit it now and stuff, I think, because he's respected. But in the '80s, I don't know, I don't remember why, but
Because he wasn't a real artist.
you know.
But he was
In the
He
70s,
was
that's
an
what they
illustrat-
told
yeah,
us.
yeah.
He wasn't a real
Yeah, so, but I liked it, but I was always quiet about it and stuff. But, you know, but, you know, I like I don't see why you can't like Jackson Pollock and Norman Rockwell at the same time, because both are great artists. It's just they're both very different.
Different style.
Yeah, so I don't see, you know, I like Rockwell, but I like you know, Andy Warhol too.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason why you can't like both. So yeah, so that's basically what I do and stuff. So you know, so then I'll paint this.
And the small little lines and all that is also with the
The pen and ink, yeah.
pen and ink with the pen, not the brush.
No. It's not.
Be fine.
Yeah, I just like that style. It's, you know, it's a nice style. So if you look at these books and stuff, you'll see and stuff. Yeah, just, you know, ignore the little tears and stuff. So, but yeah, so that's basically it. This is what I do and stuff. So hopefully, my hope is that I'll finish the book and send it to publishers in March or April. You know, or, you know, so we'll see. But and I'll have to find out. Usually, when you send a book dummy to publishers, there's a book called the Children's Writers and Illustrators Market that has a list of the publishers, the addresses, and what's important is you don't just send it to you have to find out who the art director's name is, send it to the art director. So there's Children's Writers and Illustrators Market, which you can get at Amazon, or you can go to the library and get it and stuff. It'll tell you who to send your stuff to, but expect a long wait, because they're you know, I guess it's pretty big and stuff. So don't expect a response immediately. Just submit to a couple. And it also tells you, because don't just submit to any publisher. Submit to publishers that that specifically want the type of book that you're making. So like if you if I was to send my book to a company that only does cookbooks, it's not going to go anywhere. Right? You gotta send it. Yeah. But you want to send the, you know, one of the things I learned from the SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, is to make sure, you know, because a lot of times editors and I guess art directors get annoyed by getting stuff that has nothing to do with their publication. So send it to, you know, and it's sort of a waste of your postage. So the artist market, the Children's Writers and Artists Market, it'll tell you what publishers you probably should send it to.
Angelo, we have 5 more minutes.
Okay, so I think I'm you know, unless there's any other questions and stuff.
I was curious about your book. Did you actually print those out yourself? And
Yeah, well, the first one I printed out myself because I was thinking I'd self-publish, but then I thought, you know, Penny's right. So, you know, so I decided to go to the publisher. So this one is just, I went to, you know, down by, across the street from In-N-Out Burger in El Camino and, actually right around here. Yeah, it's right there. There's a, you know, in the corner, you know,
Kinko's?
no, right, you know, next to McDonald's. It's not called Kinko's anymore. You can, Is it FedEx? Is it FedEx? Yeah. You can make color copies and stuff. So that's what I did. So when I send it, my book dummy, I'm gonna do it this way because I like the way it looks. I just staple it here. Get 2 staples, and you're done. And stuff. So, when you submit the book dummy, but you also submit a manuscript, and the manuscript should be double spaced. And each page you should have your name and your, so just in case the pages separate, they can put it together and stuff.
So do you already have a publisher for the book?
No, I have to
So that's
finish
when you're
it.
going to submit it to different publishers?
Then I'm going to send it to, and then you just kind of cross your fingers. Yeah, so, yeah, but, you know, I'll still remember you if I get published. You know, if you walk in the street, I'll still acknowledge you.
Thank you very much. How long have you been working on this project?
A year and a half, I think maybe 2 years and stuff, but yeah, it's been fun. It's just, yeah, it's fun and stuff. It's just, it's another thing that takes my time.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, and also you do the realistic painting? You never talk. You didn't talk about it.
Well, I do realistic paintings just for birthdays and Christmas gifts. So, like this, those are my nieces, but then I made a better painting, so I decided to send that painting instead. So I have like 10 nieces, and I got a nephew, and so, each birthday I try to do a portrait and stuff. So, but, well, thank you.
Thank you.